it's going to put all your temp files and put it in one location. And once you have that done, which we'll wait for, we are going to then send them the whole file, which I will show you. What's going on YouTube? I'm going to show you guys very briefly how to set up collabs and the correct way of setting up your projects to collab with other people, what I think is the right way of doing so. Obviously, this is going to be specific to Ableton, but I think universally this will transfer to your DAW. If you're using Logic, if you're using FL, if you can do these things, it will help out a lot. Let's just get straight into it. Okay, so obviously I'm in my project file and I'm about to send it to my homie. So first thing I want to do is make sure I have an organized project file. This isn't quote unquote necessary, but if you send me or if I send someone a messy project, say one vocal's up here, another vocal's halfway down there, there's 100 lanes, you know, it's all split out. It's just very unprofessional. I think it's kind of disrespectful, honestly, and my time and the other person's time is valuable. So they shouldn't have to sit there and reorganize your mess. Come prepared, even if it's not super organized, like say this, where it's vocals, melodic, bass, like we have everything very organized. And shout out to this collaborator for keeping it very organized, but you should have some structure to it. Vocals should be all in one place. Your synths should all be in one place. FX, drums, like this should all be organized. This is a pretense. This is just in general for your workflow. Now, second is going to be freezing down all your lanes. I don't care if it's only audio. You could have a plugin in there and you can see right here, I don't have this version of OTT that this person used. Now this is on a group, which we'll get to in a second, but this is why you want to freeze down everything. As far as just one of the one shots in a drum, obviously he's on Ableton, so he has EQ8. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to freeze it because we're using different stuff here. Obviously, I don't have OTT and I don't have transient shaper. So I designed it in my way and turned them off to achieve what I think was needed. So go through and freeze everything. And a great way of doing this, if you didn't know, you can't freeze groups, but you can freeze everything else. So if you go to my bass group here, I'm just going to scroll down to the very end and I hold control or whatever equivalent on Mac is and go to my groups and hit control click. Let's see, sustains, chugs, calls, leads, and I should be able to freeze all these tracks now, even if they're in different groups. I think this might have been added in Ableton 11, but maybe it was also used in previous ones. So we're going to let this freeze down real quick, and this is obviously probably the most time-consuming part of sending a collab. I'm going to drink some coffee while we do this. And now is a good time to say, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below if you know these general tips I'm going over, and subscribe if you're new, because I am dropping videos weekly and it does help me out a lot since I am almost YouTube partner. So shout out y'all, I appreciate it. And we're gonna go back to the time lapse. All right, now we're back. Now I can collapse some of these groups. Next thing you want to do is go through and get rid of any channels that are not like anything. Like for example, and I know my drums, I was trying out a few different other drums that I necessarily wasn't going to keep as an alternative, but I tried it out, it didn't work, and they were just extra audio lanes. Just delete any extra lanes. Once again, this kind of goes with the cleanup process. Make sure it's nice. And once you have everything frozen down, you have to realize anything on your groups is not going to be able to be frozen down. So if he doesn't have FabFilter Pro MB, or I don't have OTT, like that's just, it is what it is, especially my pre-master. If he doesn't have the ozone bundle, or say the clip shifter in my mastering rack, because I can't freeze my master either, so if he doesn't have clip shifter or my ozone, then he won't have that. So that's just something you need to be wary of. If it's that detrimental to your sound, you can always take your group, and this is good for maybe something that's having a lot of process, and just bounce it to stems. Just resample, you know, you'll make an extra lane at the bottom here. And we'll do, you know, you could be like basses bounced. And then you go to your bass group and say for this section, you know, obviously you do it for the whole thing, but we can just have it here and So then we have everything out. So if he doesn't have all the stuff that I have, at least he can hear what it's supposed to sound like and maybe even resample and work from there. And then once I get it back, I can apply the final touches to that and vice versa. And it is being sent to drums, which it should be sent to master because we record it directly from the bass stem. So it hasn't gone through the master processing. So this is fine to go through the master if, say, basses are turned off. Except this isn't being ran through sidechain. So that's the only difference there. But you guys get the idea. So make sure you bounce your stems out if you need to, if your processing is going to affect it. Now, lastly, for Ableton, make sure you have your own project file. You're going to go to File, click All and Save. You're going to do that. It's going to put all your temp files and put it in one location. And once you have that done, which we'll wait for, we are going to then send them the whole file, which I will show you. So we're right here, and I have this one, which is this project file. Now I want to send this whole thing. This collab with Wheysted is, I don't want to send him just this because then he doesn't have the samples. You want to send everything inside, which means you just need to go one back and choose this one. This would be the folder I upload and give back to the other producer. So I hope that makes sense. And once they download it, they will have everything that they need besides any plugins on your groups or even plugins that are frozen, which is fine. And the reason why, and then you will have your project file good to go for the other producer to open. One last thing I want to kind of touch on is you want to freeze down everything, because even if you have Serum like I do here, let me show you this real quick. Right, I have Serum. I unfreeze this, I don't have it because I don't know why. We don't have the same updated version, which is common. But one thing you can do always if you need to play with something besides the MIDI is you can always take someone's frozen track, control or whatever is equivalent, and drag. And now I have the audio. So if you ever need to mess with something further, EQ or process it, and you don't have access to it there, this is why you freeze stuff down, because if he sent me this and it wasn't frozen down, I would have no idea what this sound is. All I would see is it's Serum and I would see a few EQs. But you can always bounce stuff out and mess with anything frozen. So you can still process, although you cannot change the actual notes of it or anything within the patch, but you can always talk to them and ask them to do something if you need to change. So that's enough ranting. That's how you properly send a collab to someone. And hopefully this gave you some insight. Once again, if you did like the video, leave a like, comment down below, maybe something new you learned, and subscribe if you're new here.